I was pretty much in shock. My four-wheeler gets picked up from behind. I see the shoulder of Bigfoot behind me. My name is DW Lee. I go by Darkwing because of the DW. I'm the executive director of Mid-America Bigfoot Research Center. We've been going since 1998. We're actually the second largest group in North America looking for Bigfoot. We have about 500 members. I got started in the research because I actually live about 3.5 hours from Polk, Arkansas, or Fouke, however you want to call it, where Legend of Boggy Creek was filmed. So in 91, I took a trip down there and poked around for a few days. And then when I come back to my hometown, we found out that there were sightings going on around here. So we started investigating it. It just took off from there.
Well, it can tend to do that. Once you get started, it sort of pulls you in and keeps you interested. The mystery, I think, does a lot of that. So have you had an encounter yourself?
Yeah, I've had 28 different encounters over the years. Was what I can actually say was a Bigfoot. Now, a lot of people will be like 28 encounters, but I've been out in the woods for about 4,000 times my whole lifetime. So it averages out to about 0.004% of the time I've been in the woods, I've had an encounter.
It sounds like you have a very active area, though.
Yeah, we're smack dab in basically eastern Oklahoma. A lot of woods, a lot of open areas still available. It's just we've got the resources that can support a large number of Bigfoot in this area.
Tell me about your encounters. Tell me about the most significant one, and I'd like to hear about your first encounter because that's usually the most dramatic because we don't expect it.
Yeah. The biggest encounter I've ever really had, for me, which was we put on the Oklahoma Bigfoot Symposium here in Oklahoma every year, and we usually let everybody go out to the researchers camp and take them out on listening post and give them a little taste of what it's like to do research. And so the camp was down near one of our main research areas, which is a 6-mile long valley. And one thing that we found out is if we go up in there with our four-wheelers and we come back out, the Bigfoot usually will come out to a point just to make sure we've left the valley. So we were setting up a listening post on the creek bank at the entrance to the valley. And I said, well, I'm going to just get on the four-wheeler and I'll cruise up a little way and then come back. And truthfully, it was just for show for the people because we didn't think with that many people in the area that we'd have activity. So I go and I usually set up my thermal camera. I usually have a GoPro strapped to my forehead. But I thought, okay, well, this is just for show. I'm just going to run up there real quick and run back out. So I'm cruising through there, and I come to an S-turn up in the valley. And as I come around it, there is two Bigfoot carrying a good-sized calf on their shoulders. And my four-wheeler all of a sudden comes to a complete halt and gets picked up from behind and about throws me over my handlebars. And as I look back, I see the shoulder of a Bigfoot behind me. He had picked up my four-wheeler. And then he set me down. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure how I turned around on the trail, but when I got back down to where the listening post team was, my four-wheeler was red hot on the engine they said that I was pretty much in shock. So they got me up to camp and got me to calm down. And then one of my researchers was like, you need to go back in there. And I'm like, I'm not going back in there, and he's like, well, I'll go with you. I was like, okay, well, let's run up there. And when we went back up there, a big tree had been set across the trail, apparently to keep anybody from coming back up through there. Uh, so the next morning at the symposium, the guy that actually takes care of the cattle herd just right across the field from there, he come in and was chatting with me, and I said, yeah, this is what happened. And he turned real white, and I was like, oh, what happened? He goes, I'm missing a calf. We can't find it anywhere. And so that just kind of really validated to me, that what happened actually happened. It wasn't my imagination or anything. But that was my most intense.
Well, let me ask a question or two about that. I mean, that is really unreal. So you're going along on your four-wheeler. These two Bigfoot are in front of you. What do they look like? What size are they?
They were roughly about 7 foot tall. They were dark in color. Pretty good size animals, and we actually got a sketch. I'll send that to you so you can show it. But they apparently went down and got dinner and was taking it back to the rest of them. And I didn't even see the other Bigfoot that had been apparently standing just outside into the woods there and stepped out to grab me, and the truth is, you got a lot of people screaming that Bigfoot are dangerous and all that. The Bigfoot could have just pulled me off the four-wheeler and, did me in, but instead it stopped me. And I think it was trying to stop the four-wheeler from smashing into the other two Bigfoot and, making them drop the cow and it getting away, because it was still struggling a little bit from what I could see.
Well, describe again now. You've got two Bigfoot in front of you with the calf, and you've got this other one that's on the trail, and it reaches out and grabs the bike or you, or
it grabs the back brush guard on my four-wheeler, and we've actually got pictures of its fingerprints where it had grabbed the brush guard, and it actually, when it picked it up, it actually popped the welds and bent my back bumper where it picked it up at. So
did you stay on the bike, or were you thrown from the bike?
No, I managed to. I leaned forward. I was looking straight down at the ground, but I had a hold of my handlebars because I didn't. I've already broke an ankle in a four-wheeler accident, so I'm not going to. I'm going to try my best not to get flipped off of a four-wheeler.
You managed to stay on then.
Yeah. I was probably going maybe 10 miles an hour. So, I mean, it wasn't like I was doing, 50 miles an hour and all that. But the two Bigfoot that was carrying the calf was actually walking away from me. So, I could see their backs. I could see the calf. And it was obvious that it was Bigfoot. But I didn't get to see any of the facial features or anything like that because they were away from me.
And I can understand you must have been in shock and terrified.
Yeah. I mean, the people in my group always has a saying that, if you see Darren or DW come running by, don't ask questions, just keep up with him, because it takes a lot to get me spooked because I've been doing this for so long. But that right there was just, the whole incident just really shocked me.
What other encounters have you had then?
Well, my first encounter, back during the days when Taps was on TV and doing the ghost hunters thing, my family wanted to go ghost hunting. So we went out to this one area that's probably about 3 miles as the crow flies from the valley. And so we went in and we were ghost hunting in this cemetery. And when we come out, I had a night vision scope, and my oldest daughter, she was with us, and she had a parabolic. And we come out of the cemetery, and we thought, well, we'll walk across the little parking lot to where the creek is and look down in the creek. Well, as we was walking across there, we got hit with this. It's like a 4-week-old dead fish smell, and I, I asked her. I said, "Do you smell that?" She goes, "Yeah, I smell that." And I put the night scope up to my eye, and about that time, I seen a Bigfoot raise up from the creek bed and look at us. I seen him from here up, and I was just like, "What the heck?" And then he come down and he moved over and he come back up, and I seen him when he come back up. And then he dropped down and he started going down through the creek bed, and she heard it on the parabolic as it was running through the creek. And that was really my first sighting, and I was just shocked to have seen, what happened. Uh, just one of them things that, you wasn't prepared for. But we eventually had quite a few more encounters at that same location. We went back probably 6 months later, and had went in there and was taking pictures, and our flash was going off at night. And as we come out, we shut the gate, we heard a kawump, like one of the headstones that fell over. And it's like, oh, we can't let, that happen. So we went to the gate, me and my youngest daughter, and I was shining my big mag light through there trying to see if we could see the headstone that fell over. And she was like, "Oh my God, look at the back up there." And I kind of raised the light up, and there was a, I say blonde, but it was kind of a light tan Bigfoot was standing at the far back of the cemetery behind the fence there. And it was standing there watching us, probably been watching us the whole time we was in there. And so we called everybody over to watch it because it was standing still, even though we had the light on it. And then somebody was like, "There's another one right beside it." It was over just far enough that the light hadn't really caught it. So I adjusted it to where the light expanded. And there was another one standing there that was basically kind of the same light tan color. And that's when we noticed that they had a little one with them, and it was the same color. So the family unit was standing there watching us, and it probably had watched us the entire time that we'd been in there flashing the lights. But they stood there for probably 3 or 4 minutes before they finally turned around and disappeared into the underbrush. So that was great because I had additional witnesses to the fact that we seen those Bigfoot.
How far away is that cemetery area from where you had the encounter on the bike?
About 2 to 3 miles as the crow flies. So basically we have what we think is a extended troop. We call the Bigfoot clans and all that troops. We think we have an extended troop that goes down the length of a power line right of way. We think they use that kind of as a navigation tool. They may not walk down it, but they may walk alongside it to get down to all these research areas. But all of our research areas are connected by this right of way, and there's been sightings all the way down around it. Usually about 2 miles away is where most of the sightings happen, within that distance from that power line right of way.
Certainly sounds like you've had a lot of fairly significant encounters. Are there any others you want to talk about?
Well, not all my encounters have happened in this area, but we've also had encounters up around Chelsea, Oklahoma. We've had them down by Idabel, down there before they started really turning that into a Bigfoot tourist attraction. We actually caught a juvenile going across a trail on all fours. Me and 3 other MABRC researchers had went down to check out the first actual known sighting location of a Bigfoot in Oklahoma, and that was back in the 1800s. And is now a big game preserve. So we had went back up in there, and we come to this area that a trail left from the parking area and went down alongside the river. And we happened to find some tracks there. So two of the guys were going and casting the track, the best one that we could find. And another researcher had walked down the trail, and it was decided that we was going to let that cast cure for about 3 or 4 hours. We were going to run to town, get something to eat, and come back. And I said, well, I'll go down and I'll get Compressor Mike. We use call signs because we have so many Mikes and Randys and stuff like that in the group. I said, I'll walk down and get Compressor Mike. And so I'm walking down this trail, and as I'm looking down along the river, you see all these alligator slides where they've been sliding into the water. And this is an important thing that people should think about. I usually don't watch scary movies before I go out in the woods on expeditions and stuff because it plays on your mind. It just so happened that my daughter had watched a whole bunch of alligator and crocodile horror movies for the whole week before I went down there. So I kept thinking, damn, I hope I run into Compressor Mike, because I know there's an alligator walking right behind me. I mean, it just had me nervous all the way down there. So I finally ran into him, and we come back out. And as we was getting in the vehicles to leave, I just happened to look down that trail, and there's a Bigfoot standing there right in the open watching us leave. And I asked the guy that was with me, I said, do you see what I see? And he goes, yeah, there's a Bigfoot right there. So we got the other two guys. They were in another vehicle. They stopped, and we all got out. And it come to find out, there was two Bigfoot, one standing on each side of the trail. And we believe it was a mom and dad, because one of the researchers was watching the Bigfoot over here, and this researcher was watching the Bigfoot over here. And as I took pictures, we caught the baby Bigfoot going across the trail from one Bigfoot to the other, like it was going from mommy to daddy. And, you know, but when we caught that, we couldn't believe that we caught it going across there. And it looks like a small gorilla on all fours going across. But I took two pictures, and it shows the arms moving. They're in different positions in each picture. So we knew we couldn't go down the trail towards it, because like any animal, you try to get around the young, you know, mama's going to get pissed off and tear your arm off and beat you with it, you know. So but yeah, we've had a lot of great encounters, and luckily we've had a lot of witnesses to a lot of the encounters. So it's just not one person having encounters, it's multiple people.
Exactly. So what do you think these things are?
Big screaming monkey. They're that's the easiest way to say it. They're not a person, they're not a forest people, they're not forest friends. They're wild animals that is probably just a primate, you know, nothing special about them. No, outside of being above average intelligence for an animal. They don't go up in UFOs. They don't disappear in portals, because that kind of stuff has only come up since Facebook really started going about 10, 12 years ago. Before that, it wasn't ever even mentioned about portals or stuff like that. It just, people started dreaming stuff up, and it started sticking because of Facebook.
Do you guys run into a lot of structures, or, you know, those teepee things or anything like that down there?
Yeah, we've got a lot of structures that we come across. The problem is nobody has ever brought in evidence that Bigfoot actually creates these structures. The other day I was sent a picture of a huge structure that had been found, and something about it just stood out to me. So we posted it on Facebook and said, does anybody recognize this structure? And the first thing that come back was, yeah, that's the Blair Witch Project sign. And so now we're going back and looking at all of our pictures, trying to see if a lot of these structures have different meanings than what we've been attributing them to. So, and a lot of people think that, well, these structures, why are they out there? Bigfoot must be using them as directional markers. That's what we thought for a long time. But then one of our junior researchers who was thinking we were thinking at a level like this, and she was kind of thinking of a level like this. She goes, well, how did the Bigfoot find these things at night? And it got us thinking, and she goes, I think they're marking them with scent. So sure enough, we're trying to figure out a way to detect these scents and odors on these markers to see if there is something there. If there is, then maybe we can start saying, well, maybe Bigfoot is building these.
How are you retrieving this scent that could be on these markers?
Well, we're looking at getting basically a scent detector. It's about 25 grand. And I noticed the other day that supposedly on Expedition Bigfoot, their new season, they've got a scent detector. So I don't know if they've just been watching the stuff that we've been discussing on online and everything. But this detector will tell us, minute traces of different chemicals and stuff like that. We're also looking at developing ways of maybe taking swabs and try to do DNA collection for stuff. So I've got about 4 people in the group that is trying to come up with protocols and procedures. We have probably close to 40 or 50 different policies and procedures and stuff like that to do for everything from a Bigfoot body being found to DNA collection. We basically have all of our procedures written down and to where people can go by them and, do the research a lot better.
Have you found anything that you feel like could be something that would be a resource of DNA?
We've had quite a few rocks thrown at us, but the ones that we found have been really too rough to get any fingerprints or DNA off of. But as we go forward, they're talking more and more about they can get DNA off of thrown rocks now. We also had some grass balls that were thrown at us. And unfortunately, trying to preserve organic grass, we actually sprayed it down with acrylic. And they lasted for about 10 years, and then they finally just disintegrated on us. But we could have got DNA off of that, but that was 15, 16 years ago. So that was before the real big emphasis on trying to collect DNA.
Yeah, things have changed. What all have you seen? Because you've been in this a really long time. So what have you seen change over the years in the research and in what the focus is?
Well, let me start off first by saying, while I've had all these encounters, I am very skeptical of 99.9% of the crap being posted on Facebook and YouTube. Social media has been the downfall for Bigfoot research because it gives everybody a chance to post crap that isn't even related to Bigfoot. The quality of our research has went very much downhill since the introduction of YouTube and Facebook into the Bigfoot community.
What do you see within your own group? Where has the focus gone or changed?
Our focus has become more and more scientific, analysis based. We have guys who specialize in audio, and they can tell you if it's a raccoon or a armadillo walking through there. They can tell you if it's a rock being thrown. These guys have gotten really good at, they've sat there and listened to thousands of hours of audio, and they even went out and recreated a lot of sounds to add to a library that we can go back to and look at. Same thing with our thermal cameras. We went out and we've taken pictures of every animal we can think of and find. We've even had people dress up in costumes so we could take thermal pictures of the costume to see what it would look like. We did the what we call the Silent Hills Project with another group called APES, Arkansas Primate Evidence Society. What we did is we went out and we found a test area where we could do wood knocks, vocalizations, and call blast. And we tried to see how far the sound would carry. And what we found was that wood knocks, we used to think, oh, we'd hear a good wood knock and be like, oh, that's a quarter mile away. No. If you hear a good wood knock, the Bigfoot is probably within 200 feet of you, because after 1,000 feet away, the wood knock degrades significantly to the point that ambient noise will cover it over. You can probably still hear it if you're sitting there watching the guy swing the stick onto the tree. And we tried this with different trees, tried it with different sticks, different vocalizations, different call blasting. We used I'll think of it in a minute. Decibel meters. We used little decibel meters to see how much the decibel reading was. We used range finders. We used range finders to actually tell us exactly what the range was and what we were hearing. And one thing that we found out that really surprised us was when it's colder, it actually cuts the noise that you can hear in half. Before, we could hear call blasting at roughly about a quarter of a mile away, but when it was cold, that was actually knocked down to less than, I think it was 700 feet. So one of our next attempts at doing this is we're going to take a boat out in the middle of the lake and see what the distance is that sound carries over water. So it's really amazing that when we did this, we found out that the Bigfoot is only a couple hundred feet away from you. And when we did the experiment the first time, we think this will be the fourth time when we go out. The first time, we actually had a tree pushed down across the road where we were doing this. The next morning we come out, the tree was pushed down over the road. I mean, I know trees fall all the time, but this tree actually was across the road, and it took about 4 of us to get it out of the way. But it was one of those things that made you just go, But yeah, we do a lot of debunking. We debunk our own stuff even more than we do anybody else's stuff, just because when we do put it out there, we don't say, okay, this is a Bigfoot making this vocalization. We say, this is a possible Bigfoot. This is a purported Bigfoot. we don't ever say it is for sure, because then people can come back and say, well, you said this was a Bigfoot, but it's not. You guys don't know what you're talking about. So we say possible Bigfoot. And that's really all the stuff out there that's being presented on YouTube and Facebook. That's what people need to say. They need to say it's a possible Bigfoot. It's a purported Bigfoot. But you got so many of them saying, oh, this is a Bigfoot. I know it is. And even when you present them with evidence that, hey, that's that's one of them wooden cutouts, or it's somebody in a suit, then they go get all bent out of shape, because how dare you say that?
Easy to be a hoax or a mistaken situation then.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people will take a picture. They'll take 200 pictures of an area and then go back home and sit there and go through there and think, oh, I see a Bigfoot there. I see a Bigfoot here. No, if you see a Bigfoot and you take a picture of it, you need to walk towards it. You need to get it to maybe possibly stand out. People are like, oh, you're crazy. Well, we use thermals. And if we catch something on the thermal, I will take a handheld thermal and I will start walking towards it. Because what I want it to do is I want it to stand up so I can catch a full figure thermal picture of it. And then, when I come back and show that, it's like, okay, there's a Bigfoot standing in this thermal picture, or there's something standing here. Y'all make your own decision. But
have you had that happen? Have you been able to use a thermal in that way and actually get one to stand up and get a better image?
We've got some that have. It's just when they stood up, it was still far enough away that it still looks like a kind of a blob on the thermal. But I keep trying to get closer and closer. So
really hard to capture, right?
Yeah. But that's the whole thing. We think we see a Bigfoot, we go after it, and I know there's going to be people screaming, oh, you put stress on the animal and all that. No. If we're going to prove it, then if it's hunkered down, hiding behind a tree, and we think we see it, we walk towards it. We want it to come out. If we got a GoPro on our heads or we got a camera, most cell phones record video. We'll hold our phone out there recording video as we're walking. We're trying to get them to expose themselves enough to where we can get a good shot with a camera or a video camera or even a thermal. So, and with today's technology, everybody is able to manipulate photos and stuff. So video is probably pretty much the only way to really go for right now, that and thermals.
How often do you get out in the woods and do this research?
Well, until the pandemic, I was going out every weekend. Now it's probably every 2 or 3 weekends. But there for a while, the MABRC, which is the Mid-American Bigfoot Research Center, we were having expeditions pretty much every month, 2 or 3 days out there in the woods, on top of what I was going out. We've done where we've taken audio drop boxes, which here's one right here. You put your audio recorder in here in the bottom where you got foam at, and we've got a hole that you just take right here and you hook it up in a tree, and you can leave it for 4 or 5 days at a time until the batteries run out, and it just records out there. So we've done several projects where we've went out there and we've had them out in the field for 4 or 5 months collecting audio. We'd go out and change the batteries, put the audio files onto a laptop and hang them back out. And we've got some pretty good stuff. We still got probably 3 or 4 months of audio still to go through, but those drop boxes, we can go out on a area and put them out in probably a 10 square mile area and cover that whole area with drop boxes. And a friend of ours, Stephen James from Texas, he brought us some information that the wildlife department is starting to use, where they are starting to triangulate with audio, and they can actually tell how many different number there is of each species in an area by doing this triangulation, and it all feeds into a computer, and the computer analyzes it, spits the data back out at you. So we're working on trying to get that operation on, get it out in the field, see how we can do with that.
Well, it sounds like you're extremely organized. Now, this center, is this a center that's open to the public? Is this a center that's just your research group? Tell me about it.
It's basically the group itself. We have our own website. We're not just on Facebook. We got our own website. We got our own forums. We got the MABRC forums. We've got the Bigfoot Field Guide radio show. We've got YouTube videos. We got books that we wrote. We do have my office here that you see behind me. This also is headquarters for the MABRC. We got a lot of our evidence here, and we also have a server that has, I think last count was close to 10 terabytes of Bigfoot evidence and information that we have available to anybody that needs it. Steve Coles asked me the other day for some pictures of a costume that he was trying to compare to a video, and we was able to find that for him pretty quick and get it over to him. Basically, every time I come across a video on YouTube, even if it is an outright hoax, I'll download it, put it in the database so we can always go back and look and compare it. So it's a big undertaking. We've come a long way since the early days when we first started.
Well, it sounds like you just have an extensive library almost of audio as well as visual resources to be able to identify hoaxes or non-hoaxes.
Yeah, we even have probably the largest collection of pictures of Bigfoot costumes collected. Every time we come across a new costume, it gets added to the database. So down the road, somebody puts out a video that's somebody in a costume, and they're like, "Oh, that's a Bigfoot." No, that's a costume because we got a picture of it right here.
Well, it sounds like you're extremely thorough with what you're doing and a very objective researcher. About how many are in your group again?
Over 500. The BFRO is the only one bigger than we are. So we just continue to grow. We've got members over in Australia. We've got them in New Zealand. Got them in Canada. You know, we do got them worldwide. The guys over in Australia, they're looking for the Yowie, so we get to see a lot of information coming from there about the Yowie. So it's been a heck of a great ride because you know, I've got to see so much information come across, and then, like I said, of course, with Facebook and YouTube, that's been a detriment to the research because everybody tries to get their 15 minutes of fame, you know, whether it be a hoax or whatever. And the newer people coming into the Bigfoot community, they don't want to take the time to learn the history or go back and look and know what the big hoaxes are. People all the time are always reposting the hoaxes that were busted 10, 15 years ago. And then when you tell them, yeah, we busted that hoax 15 years ago, they're like, oh, y'all are full of it. You didn't bust it. It's the real thing. No, it got busted. And so I actually started, we used to have website called Squatchopedia, and that was run by Brian Brown from the old BFF, the Bigfoot forums, and it eventually shut down. But I went and restarted it as Squatchopedia 2.0, and everything we can we're putting on there as far as hoaxes, history, famous tracks, famous videos. It's all getting put on there. So people, if they would just take the time to go to squatchopedia.org, they can learn a lot just from that one website.
Well, what else can you tell me about? What else would you like for this audience to know?
One thing, always be skeptical of everything. You're not being skeptical that, Bigfoot don't exist, but be skeptical of everything that gets told to you. Right now, I'm putting together a presentation to do at the Arkansas Bigfoot conference next month. And one of the things that we started talking about on the back channels of the group was all these radio shows and the radio shows and the YouTube shows that people are putting on about all these sightings and encounters that people are getting on there and talking about. The numbers don't support the number of Bigfoot out there. There's no way that we can have this many sightings going on with the amount of Bigfoot that could actually exist in the wild. We're having people jumping up saying, oh, I've got a family of Bigfoot living in my backyard. And when they finally give you the location and you look, it's in the middle of a metropolitan area. It's like, yeah, somebody needs to get on some medication here. Be skeptical of everything you're told. Be skeptical of everything you see. If you take a picture of what you think is a Bigfoot, don't just take it from 200 feet away. Walk up. Try to get closer. You want that animal to step out so you can get a better picture. I hear so many times, oh, I was so terrified. Well, the animal is going to get away from you as fast as possible. If you start walking towards it, most animals are going to hightail it away from you. You're just trying to get it to step out so you can get a better picture. That way, when you do post it, you can say, okay, here y'all are. I walked towards it. It stepped out. I got a picture of it. Also, the one thing I can't stress enough, comparison photos. Don't just take a picture and post it and say, oh, here it is. Go back, take a picture to show that whatever it was not there when you took the comparison picture. Take it in the same conditions that you took it before. Basically same lighting, same time of day. Usually that will show you that it was probably a shadow that you've seen. We had a lady that sent me a picture and was swearing up and down that she had a Bigfoot standing at the end of her driveway. So we collected a team. We went up there, and when we got there, she goes, guys, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you think that there was a Bigfoot there. As we walked down towards it, it was a brush pile down there, and there were some dark leaves that was in the shape of a person standing there. And it did look like a Bigfoot from a distance, but when you got up there and took a picture, there it was. It was just a bunch of leaves that was shaped like a Bigfoot. So, if people would just take the time to go up there and take a better picture, take some comparison pictures, even do measurements, have somebody stand there to show the size comparison. It makes it a lot easier when they do put it out there for people to be like, okay, you might have something. Let's take a look at your other information, your other evidence. So do your due diligence, be skeptical. And if people need to look at some protocols to be able to do better research, then go to squatchopedia.org. We've got a bunch of our stuff posted there under the protocols. Check it out. Even the Bigfoot field guide books that we put out. We've got one for marker analysis, shows you how to do all the measurements on these markers that are out there. How to analyze photos, video. I'm working on one now for a thermal. We got audio. If people want to buy the books, it shows step by step with pictures and everything on how to do this themselves. It'll really be helpful for them if they do that.